Hi, everybody. Welcome to my live Q&A. I'm here to talk about intention essentials, not only what's really important in doing intention, but also my forthcoming class, Cold Intention Essentials, which is kicking off in just 3 days' time. So I'm thrilled to have so many of you on this call, either watching from Facebook or on my Zoom webinar. And this is your opportunity to ask me so many questions about what's really important with intention. Because, I find even seasoned students of mine have difficulties being clear about what they want, having clarity about what exactly is important to them and how to transmit this to the universe. I mean, we think of thoughts being locked inside our skulls, but we are beaming 24/7. And the problem is our messages to the universe are muddled, are incoherent, are a mass of wants and desires without any clarity of exactly what that is. Most people go through their lives saying, well, I'm not sure what I want, but I know it's not this. And that's what's really important about getting clear about intention and doing intention. It not only clarifies what it is you want in your life, but also it lets the universe know, and that creates an energetic path. Now, that may be really bizarre and something that you don't believe, but my goodness, it really is the case. I've seen this thousands of times. I've seen thousands of people asking me and starting out their time with me when we do courses saying, I'm not sure what I want. My health is terrible. My finances are really awful. I really want to change my job. My relationships are poor with my children or my spouse or my dear friends, or they're estranged or whatever, or even I'm just not sure what my next act is. I want to serve people, but I'm not sure what that is. And with all of these people, I have found that intention is a powerful way to get what you want. And invariably, my students who carry on with the work, who work with Power of Eight groups, find an extraordinary effect. They find that they start the work with me, as I say, in an area, in a muddle, not knowing what they want, not knowing how to get it, and with the power of their group and the power of intention and using 7 key intention essentials that I talk to them about, invariably, they get what they want. The people who work consistently with my group or with a group find invariably that their lives are transformed. So I want to answer some questions that you may have, whether you are tuning in from Facebook, whether you are tuning in from Zoom. I'm here to answer some questions for you. And I know Laura is here and she's looking at the chat and the Q&A. If you have questions, make sure that you are putting them in the Q&A in particular. Then we can see more readily what your questions are. So please make sure to ask questions, and Laura will be also monitoring Facebook and looking at any questions and popping them in the Q&A too. So let's have a look and see who's writing in. So Mara has written, I'm clearing past life energies of victimhood, but really struggling with this and have given power to the mind, clinging to victimhood around not wanting to be accountable. But I know this is not the truth of me. Can this course help? Will we be part of an ongoing Power of Eight group or only if we do the next level course? Thanks for answering. Okay, Maura, what a great question. So what we'll be showing you are the key elements of intention, that really help you focus on what you want and not what has happened to you in the past. I mean, we do a special entire course on healing your past with intention. For that, I work with my husband, Brian Hubbard, the author of Time Light, and the author of The Untrue Story of You, who has developed the Time Light program. And I've been using retro intention to heal people and blockages from the past and trauma. But for yours, when you talk about energies of victimhood, what you're talking about oftentimes is patterns of not feeling good enough, not knowing what you want, and struggling with some of the essentials and the areas of moving forward in your life. And yes, this course will teach you all the basics of intention. Now, I talk about 7 key essentials, which are the first ones to get you going with intention. If you've never worked with me before, even if you've worked with other spiritual teachers, because I have a particular way of working that I have found has worked in 40 scientific studies that I've done with universities around the world. I found that Power of 8 groups are an extraordinary way of transforming your life and providing power and support. Now, I think it's really important for anybody out there, including you, Moira, if you've not worked with me before, this is a good place to start because it introduces you to all the 7 key essentials. And one of the things that all of my students get wrong, I find, when they're first starting out, is the wording of intention. There are very specific ways to word your intention, I find. And the most important thing is to be specific, letting the universe know what you want. Well, you would be surprised at how nebulous most people's intentions are. You know, I want money to buy a house. Well, how much? And what house? You know, do you have any idea of what your house is? Is it a 1-bedroom apartment or is it a 5-bedroom house? You know, not being clear means an intention that isn't clear, that is energy that's not clear, that isn't going to help you achieve what you want. So I help people craft it. People also will say, you know, I want clarity in my life. Well, clarity for what? Which area of your life? Is it your career? Is it finances? Is it your relationships? Is it your next act? What is it you want to be clear about? And other people try to take every intention they want and throw it into a single sentence. So they have in there information about their health, they have in there information about their finances, relationship, career, all of these things. They feel they have to throw it into one intention. And what I try to do is show you that you can do more than one. And your group is going to do more than one for you. You can make intentions for everything, but to separate them out. So if you've never taken a course from me, or even if you have, and you need some refreshing, you need a tune-up, this is a good place to go. As far as a Power of 8 group, Moira, we don't put you in groups, but we have a private members page on my community site. So it's off of Facebook, it's off of social media. It's completely private for the group itself, where we have a system for people to set up their own Power of 8 groups to work with. You can also meet all of the other course members and set up buddies. So you practice back and forth, but you'll be able to talk with this group, create smaller groups within it, even create pairs to work with. So you'll end up with a Power of 8 group, and many of our Intention Essential class members end up meeting for months and even years. We just had a retreat where people met together. This was in physically together. And it's very clear that these groups are going to be meeting for years to come. So I hope that has answered your question, Moira. So let's see who else we have asking questions. Let's see if we've got, and remember, If you want, you can write on the chat. You can write in the Q&A is better. And okay, so Emily, I'm very confused about what I want, love and need at the moment. So you're confused about what you want. Well, one of the things about the class and one of the things about what I teach is how to get clarity about what you want. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it, but because I'm a former reporter, I think about what reporters are taught, which is who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those are the 5 W's and H that we're supposed to write in every lead, every intro of every story we write. And I use a lot of those W's when I explain to people how to formulate intentions. But it takes some practice, and I have a lot of samples. The other thing that I find works remarkably well is that support of a group. When you are confused about what you want, when you are confused about how to go forward, then when you are working with a group, they oftentimes see things about you and your future far more clearly than you do. And I help groups assist their individual members in designing a future because they're better at it than you are. There's also something else that we need. I mean, all of us, all of we humans were made not to be isolated. And yet we live these extraordinarily isolated and solitary lives. You know, our mantra in the way we've designed all of our societal structures is competitive individualism. And because of that, we don't really operate in communities very well. And with technology, we are more isolated than ever, staring at our computer screens. So I try to be the antidote to that in the courses I teach. I don't look always to just self-help. I look to other help and how that rebounds on each of us. I mean, that's the extraordinary thing about being in a group. The engine of a group is altruism, because you're helping other people. And I've seen it thousands of times when people help other people in a small or large group, the healings reflect back on them too. With my intention experiments, when I've had thousands of people coming together to do an intention to lower violence somewhere or to end a war, at least 40% of the people who participate say that their lives have become more peaceful. They've made up with estranged family members. They're getting along better with their coworkers and boss. They feel more love for everyone they come in contact with. That's what 40% say. We also see nearly half of all the people who participate have some sort of health improvement. Oftentimes it is a complete cure. Other times it is a vast improvement in a condition. And in almost every case, people are talking about a new, vibrant sense of being. That's the power of altruism. That's why a small Power of 8 group can help you so much when you're confused. So I hope that's helped you, Emily. Now, Jillian, I'd love to know your thoughts on if emotion is a necessary part of intention. Oh, goodness, it totally is. It's not a head activity. You formulate intention in your head, but then it comes down to your heart and gets sent out, whether it's for yourself or for someone else. And that's the other beauty of working in a group and having this community. It always is a heart exercise. Now, the big piece, as I said, about my intention groups is altruism. is sending intention out as a group. Much of the time, you're sending intention out for other people, but then it becomes your turn too. And even if it's not your turn, I've seen immediate healings. I've seen people who were disengaged from life suddenly engage again by virtue of being a sender, not even being a receiver. Their lives change, their lives shift too. I mean, it's a big overlooked aspect of our human experience. As I said, we were never made to be isolated. We were made to live in community, and we need belonging more than we need fresh air or food. We need to belong. And one of the things that is so powerful about a Power of 8 group is having a group of 7 other strangers sending loving intention to you. But it is always loving. It's always from the heart. Absolutely. So Julie says, should we try to find the 8 from our living location? I want to improve my city and its issues from Facebook. Well, you can if you want to, and you want to join one of my groups. And you want to join one of my courses, it's not strictly necessary. That's why I've talked about the Power of 8 in so many ways. But if you want to actually set up a group of 8 with people who are learning with you, then please do take my course. Otherwise, you can set up an intention group on my community page too. If you join my community, you can just advertise for a Power of 8 group among other members of my community. Just stick up a little banner and say, hey, anybody else live in this area who wants to be part of it? That's probably, you're more likely to have people who are going to follow the types of protocols that I recommend if it's from my own community, and you also have more privacy than Facebook. Okay. So I want to tell you also, and please feel free to continue to ask questions if you have any. I want to talk about what a lot of people don't understand about how this all works. You know, why does it work? It's hard to believe that just having a thought can affect so many things in your life. But you have to go back to the whole idea that you are just energy. Everything is energy in your life. You know, we are taught through conventional science that the universe is made up of solid and stable and separate things there's everything out there, and then it's us, separate from all of that stuff. But the new science shows that that's not true, that we're all part of an enormous quantum field teeming with energy, and we're part of that energetic exchange. Every subatomic particle in our bodies is having an energetic dance with all of the other subatomic particles out there. So we're having this energetic dance, and they are dancing back with us. And our thoughts are just one more piece of energy. They are vibrating packets of energy. So when you get down to the nethermost level of our being, we are a batch of not subatomic particles like little billiard balls. We're a batch of vibrating packets of energy, and our thoughts are the same. There's a lot of evidence that thoughts are an energy that affect parts of our body and out there as tiny particles of light. And that light is somehow mediated by thoughts, but it's very evident through just literally thousands of scientific papers that thoughts are not only things, but things that affect other things. And what I've found is that all of this is supersized in a small group. What happens individually is magnified when it is done by a group. And that is another reason why I'm banging on so much about Power of Eight groups, because I see that they are so effective in healing people's lives. I've seen it thousands of times. I've seen two people get up out of their wheelchairs who were supposedly paralyzed, one from the neck down. I've seen people overcome and cancel all kinds of operations they were supposed to have, all kinds of surgery, with one 10-minute intention. I've seen people completely change their relationships, find love when they had nearly given up, and in the later part of their life, in their 50s or 60s or beyond. I've seen people who were down to their last 200 pounds, $200, suddenly receive windfalls that enabled them to set up a new business. I mean, it's just been amazing to see the effects of these groups and how they heal. So I want to talk to you also about an amazing part of this and why it works so well. So we've done scientific studies on Power of Eight groups. I was fortunate enough to work with Life University, and I'm still working with them. They've set up a team of neuroscientists who have been studying the Power of Eight. And when we first did it, we got student volunteers and we put an EEG cap on them, which is the kind of equipment that measures different brain waves going on in the brain. And we assumed when we did this that it was going to look like meditation, that there would be no real difference between meditation and Power of Eight groups. The same parts of the brain would fire. And what happens during meditation is an increase of alpha waves. The brain slows down a bit. And alpha, beta waves, these are all measurements of brainwave cycles per second. Normally, we operate in the beta range, which is kind of mid-speed. Alpha range and delta range slow the brain down. And that's what they've seen, an increase in alpha waves in meditation. With Power of Eight groups, complete opposite happens. What happens is a lot of parts of the brain, particularly the parietal lobes, they sit right here. They help us navigate through space. They tell us what's me and what's not me. Those are dialed way down. In other words, they're turning down, they're turning off. So are part of the right frontal lobe, the parts of the brain that make us feel separate and full of doubt and worry. Those are also dialed way down too. We were astonished when we saw this outcome because it didn't resemble meditation. What it resembled was the studies that had been done using the same equipment or similar equipment by Dr. Andrew Newberg at the University of Pennsylvania then, who was studying Buddhist monks during ecstatic prayer and Sufi masters during chanting. So what this all demonstrated was a Power of Eight group was putting student volunteers, these were total novices, most of whom had never even meditated before. It was placing them in a state of ecstatic oneness. And that's the other thing that is so powerful about a Power of Eight group, particularly if you carry on in an ongoing meeting with your group, you get to experience ecstatic oneness. You get to experience the field. We don't often have that experience. We don't get to feel what it feels like in the field. We may be saying we're all one, but our life feels lonely and separate. When you do Power of Eight work together, you experience what essentially the field feels like. This is what oneness feels like. It feels like, as many of my students report, extraordinary energy through the body. It feels like tingling. Many, many people cry uncontrollably during Power of Eight groups. Many feel electricity or goosebumps, all sorts of things. And it doesn't require you being in the same room, holding the hands of the people in the same room to feel this. It happens on Zoom. It happens on a medium like this. I mean, it happens during my intention experiments when people are all in their own houses, in their own, on their own computers, joining in individually, but feeling part of one. That's the power of it. So even if you are living alone, experiencing life alone, you will feel connection that you ordinarily don't get to feel. So let's see if we've got some more questions. So how do we join your groups or take your courses, says Jermaine? Well, you can join, I think, in our chat and on Facebook. Laura's going to put, from my team, is going to put information about how to join and book your place at Intention Essentials. So you can get that. And for other people who have never really been part of my work before, you can come to lynnmctaggart.com and you'll find out more about all of my work, all of my courses, and how to join. And now Maura has another question asking, is it easy to allow the mind to settle enough when doing the Power of Eight meditation to come into the state that's necessary for intentions? Well, first of all, Maura, it's not a meditation. I want to make that really clear. As I just said, it's very different from ordinary meditation. Meditation is trying to erase any thought in the mind and to just be. Power of Eight groups are flooding the mind with an intention statement. And we always hold it. You know, meditation oftentimes goes on for 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, all day. Our intentions and my intention experiments are never longer than 10 minutes. And we started that because when I first did an intention experiment with Dr. Gary Schwartz, our very first one in 2007, we were running it in front of a live audience of about 700. And we were wondering how long to do this for. And we thought, well, not everybody in the audience is going to be used to meditation. So why don't we just run it for 10 minutes? Because we thought that might be the maximum that someone can hold a thought. But what we do during the process is you not only hold that thought of what the intention is for yourself or for someone else in your group, but you imagine them at the moment they succeed. You allow your visualization to come in. So, in other words, instead of obliterating thought and trying to have no thought, or just holding on to a mantra or, a tone like meditation does, this is about flooding your mind with the outcome. And most people say that after a short period of time of practice with their group, they're able to hold these thoughts very easily. So that's another thing, though, is people need help in the process because a Power of Eight group and this kind of work is very different from what people are used to in meditation, in a lot of spiritual teaching. A lot of people are told that they shouldn't be specific. They shouldn't tell the universe precisely what they want because it limits what happens. And I want to assure them it never limits what happens. Lots of people do their intention and get that, and then more so. It never limits. The other thing people have a big misunderstanding about is naming something negative. They feel they shouldn't name cancer, for instance. If they have a problem with cancer and they have an issue with cancer, They're worried about saying, my intention is to overcome cancer, get rid of my cancer, because they think it'll make it worse. That's not true, because if you phrase it positively, our intention is, or my intention is, for, Jane Doe to be immediately, completely, and permanently healed of all traces of breast cancer and any metastases, and to be healthy and well in every way. That is framed as a positive and is immediately able to instigate, in many instances, a healing process in the particular patient. Now, notice again, as I say, it's overcoming or immediately healed of or be free of. All of those words are positive statements. So even though you're mentioning cancer, a negative, you're asking the universe for a positive, to be free of this. So don't be afraid to name exactly what you want or what you want to be free of. Both of those are part of my teaching, part of the process. So we've had a few interesting questions. We'll see if there are any more, but if you want more information about how to book your place, etc., we're noting this. And as I say, what is really important is the clarity that you can get by working in a group, the clarity you get when you learn 7 key essentials about how to use intention, how to focus your mind, how to use the group to help you even achieve the impossible. Now, I found many, many people, aside from extraordinary overnight healings that I've seen with these Power of 8 groups, we've seen many, many people who started out really confused about where they wanted to live or needed to find a new place, and there seemed to be no prospects in sight. And by working with the group, they found new homes. I found people who were thousands of pounds or dollars in debt. And when they sent out intention, it was amazing. I remember one woman was about $2,500 in debt. It was something of that order. She sent out intention, and she gets back, not long after that, an email from a hotel she had stayed in several months ago, saying that she accidentally paid too much because she booked online at a certain rate, but they overcharged her. And guess what? The amount they rebated her for was about $2,500. I've seen somebody else who was in debt, he and his wife, and really worried about it, worked repeatedly with his group. This was Robert. And out of the blue, he got checks from his bank that he didn't expect that were about the money he needed. So I've seen this over and over again. So-called hopeless cases where doctors have given up on someone. We had a couple with their son, little baby Hamilton, a year ago, who had a perforated colon when he was born and all kinds of problems. And he was on a roller coaster healing crisis. And the group did an intention for him in the very beginning of his work with us. And little Hamilton, who the doctors were wondering whether or not he was going to make it, is now healthy. He's probably about 18 months old now. So he's a healthy young child now. And as I say, the doctors nearly gave up on him. So we've seen it over and over again, the power of using intention and the power of also being really clear about what you want and having that transmit by the group. One of the other things that I teach also is using the mind to mentally rehearse this. So I'll be going over steps to take for that. And the reason this is so important is the brain is really a marvel, but it's also a little bit dumb because it and the neurons that it fires don't know the difference between an action and a thought. The very same neurons fire when you're thinking about a movement. Let's say I move my hand like that. The very same neurons will fire if I'm just thinking about moving my hand like that. And that's an amazing thing. But we can use it to our advantage because if you practice mental rehearsal, like an elite athlete does, you can essentially rehearse the movements and the actions that you will need to take to achieve what you want. So mental rehearsal is the part of the arsenal of every elite athlete, but it's also part of my arsenal to show people how to use mental rehearsal to achieve that moment of success. And that's the mental rehearsal we focus on, and I show you exactly how to do. Another key element I mentioned was getting off of yourself. When people are stuck, and this is one of the problems with the self-help movement, it's a focus on the self. It's a focus almost exclusively on the self and self-improvement. But the science shows that people who are exclusively focused on the self are more likely to be depressed and to not get what they want in life. One of the key fast track methods of getting what you want is helping other people. Altruism science demonstrates that people who do things for other people, no matter how small, live longer, healthier, happier lives. So we use and harness the power of getting off of yourself. And whenever people in my courses are stuck, invariably, I will say to them, get off of yourself. Do an intention for someone else and see what happens. And I know that happened. I've seen many, many people who were stuck. And as soon as they did that, people like Lisa was trying to write a book and absolutely stuck. She couldn't find the right editor. It was going nowhere, and she was terrified about marketing it. So I told her, get off of yourself. Intend for somebody in your group who has more difficulties. So she did. She intended for someone with the group who had big financial problems. And lo and behold, that very next week, out of the blue, when she walked into a store, she bumped into somebody she vaguely knew. She didn't even need to go into that store. Something propelled her to do so, even though she didn't need anything in that store. She bumps into a woman she vaguely recognized. And when they got chatting, she went up and said hello. Also felt propelled to talk to her. Turns out the woman was an ex-publisher and a book coach now, who, when she heard about Lisa's trials with trying to get a book published and marketed, she offered to walk her through the whole process, which she did. She coached her through the whole thing. Upshot was Lisa ended up with a best-selling book on Amazon. So I've seen this multiple times, where getting off of yourself is so powerful and not anything ever talked about in the personal development arena. So it's something that we really focus on in my courses, in my intention work, in my intention experiments too. And we find that it is a way to overcome trauma too, because there's a lot of evidence that show connection is very healing for a major portion of the body to move away from fight or flight into connection and ease and relaxation and rest. That's part of the genius of community and why it works so well. We also I show you in my course, Intention Essentials, and it's in my work, how to take baby steps. Oftentimes people decide, well, I'm going to do one big nebulous intention, but I show you how to break it down so that if you are faced with a big healing challenge like cancer, for instance, I show you how to intend for the right person to heal you, the right practitioner, then intend for steps along the way and why this is so powerful and works so well. When we learn the right way to focus, the right way to use your heart, the right way to frame your intentions, to take baby steps, to focus on the moment of outcome, and much, much more. And all of the rudimentaries of a Power of 8 group, because it's not so easy running them either. And it requires some steps, it requires some knowledge, it requires a lot of practice. So intention is easy when you know how. And that's why I endeavor always to show people the way and show people how their lives can be transformed just by a group of 7 other people and meeting together to intend together as one. So if you're interested and you want to find out more, there's more information in the chat on Facebook and on my website, lynnmctaggart.com, about my upcoming course, Intention Essentials. It's a level 1 course. It's ideal for people who've never taken anything from me before, or people who want to learn more about intention, even if they studied with other spiritual teachers, or people who have studied with me before and want to tune up. So make sure to check it out on lynnmctaggart.com as well. And if you want any more information, you can find it. We have a big description of the course on my website. But I also want to let you all know that you've only got 3 days to book. We're going to kick off on this Saturday, September 24th. So if you want to study with me on this course, which entails, by the way, 5 teaching sessions. So I have 5 in-depth teaching sessions, and we include homework. I have you work on the course itself during the teaching sessions with me. So there you have a lot of experiential stuff right then and there. But I also give you homework to practice during the week. And you'll find out when you start doing this homework exactly what a leaky bucket you are and how most of what you're sending out in terms of your intentions about yourself is very, very negative. So you'll find out more about how to do that. You will, and how to overcome that. You'll have homework. And then after these 5 teaching sessions, I have 2 2-hour mentoring sessions with you so that I can answer your questions and work with you and practice with you. So I ensure, and you ensure, that you know how to do the steps and you know how to handle the techniques and use them going forward. So it kicks off, as I say, this Saturday. So there's not a lot of time left to join if you want to join me on this course. You can find out more about it on this Facebook page, on my website, lynnmctaggart.com, in the chat if you're listening in on Zoom. And if you find that you can't join us for this course, there's more coming up. There's our Power of 8 Intention Masterclass kicking off in February. And for professionals, we are also running Become a Better Healer, where I help professionals improve their success rate by paying attention to their thoughts and words, which are the most important medicine. So all of these things are coming up, but Intention Essentials is just this Saturday. So make sure to join me. If you're interested, I'd love to work with you. Thanks, everybody, for listening. It's been great being with you and sharing some of our Intention Essentials and what's really important to use, fundamental in making your intentions come true. So I hope all of yours do. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of day. See you soon. Bye.